everybody, I hope you're having a good day wherever you're in the world. Now, today's video is quite different and it's going to be helpful to the viewers and people around the viewers who are deaf. This video is all about how to cope with deafness or how to cope being deaf. Deafness plays a huge role in my life because I am deaf. Now, there is a little twist. I actually did have proper hearing for the first 2 years of my life, and then when I was 2 I was struck with neuroblastoma, which is a nervous system type cancer. It's a tumour that doesn't care where it grows or where it's attaching to, it just wants one aim, and that is to ruin your life forever. So during that course of 18 months worth of treatment, I had chemotherapy and radiotherapy. Now, back then, this was going back 13 years ago, treatment was a lot different to what it is now. And the treatment that I had killed my hearing completely. And it destroyed hair follicles that transmit sound waves. If I'm getting that wrong, it's because I'm not a biologist or a doctor of any sort, so don't quote me on half the stuff I'm talking about here. So basically, chemo and radiotherapy killed the hair follicles in my ears, which basically help you to hear higher pitched and lower pitched sounds. Now, I lost most or entirely my high pitched hearing, which means that I can't hear stuff like birds chirping, crickets, cicadas, not that anyone wants to hear those, they're a loud necessity of noise. But until recently, 13 years after losing my higher pitched hearing, I went for an audiology appointment and found out that I'd lost partial decibels or partial sound levels of my lower frequency hearing. So it kind of hit me. How have I coped for 13 years with losing higher pitched hearing? I mean, it kind of struck me after losing some of my lower pitch that I'm going to be losing my hearing, and losing my hearing is something that I absolutely don't want, and I would hate to lose my entire hearing altogether because I enjoy music too much, I enjoy talking to people, I enjoy doing these videos where I can actually hear my voice. So it kind of struck me that it's a recent diagnosis and I still don't know how to cope with it. But I did think, for some of you who are newly diagnosed, maybe you've been diagnosed a long time, I thought it would be a nice video to talk about how to cope with deafness, because it is a really hard thing to cope with, and it's completely different from being diagnosed with cancer or any other illness or disability in the entire world. It is so separate from anything else in this world that hearing loss is just so annoying because everyone takes it for granted. We hear all the time, we speak to each other, we listen to each other, we listen to music. It's such a for granted thing that losing it just means that you're losing your mind completely and worrying about, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be able to hear people soon, I'm not going to be able to hear cars, I'm not going to be able to hear planes flying above my house, which coincidentally is okay with me. So I thought it'd be a nice idea to compile a list of things to help you cope a little bit better and hopefully help me cope, because I'm still learning with this and it's not helping whatsoever. The first thing I'm going to talk about is taking time to accept that you're deaf. It's a really hard thing to do because after I was diagnosed with higher pitched hearing loss, I was only 2 at the time, so I really didn't understand what was going on. I was also constantly in hospital, I was in pain a lot, I was completely ill, so I had no time to think about losing my hearing. It was just something that came, I guess it came at a time where everything was just so coincidental, like things were happening. I was losing my weakness, I was losing my strength in my muscles, and I'd lost my hearing, so it was really hard to kind of accept that I was turning deaf altogether. So for me now, I'm older and maturer to know how to cope with deafness, although it was still a hard thing to do, to accept that I'd lost some of my lower frequency. It's still quite traumatizing, and taking time to accept that yes, you are deaf, or you are going deaf, or you have some sort of loss of deafness, it's a really hard thing to do, and I kind of encourage you to take as much time as you need to cope with it, even if that means crying for a couple of days, even if it means just not contacting people, or just spending time with people around you. Because the thing that struck me the most was losing your lower frequency hearing is one of the worst things for me, because that's all I have left, and losing it means that I am not in control of what I can hear. I'm always at college. I am pretty much on the go all the time now, so for me, losing my lower frequency is one of the most, I guess, traumatizing things recently that's happened. I do say that a couple of things now is that dwelling on it for a really long time, although to you it kind of helps, it doesn't help others around you. They are trying to support you no matter what. I learnt that the hard way. My parents and my brother have been there for me, and it's really, really hard to kind of get used to being deaf. So take as much time as you need, or a couple of days, a week, however long you want to take time, even if it means driving into the forest and setting up a campsite and just taking some time to just chill. That's fine, because taking time to accept that you've lost hearing is a massive, massive part of accepting who you are, and deafness doesn't have a cure. It just stays with you for the rest of your life. So I highly suggest taking time to accept who you now are. Right, the second tip I'm going to give you is quite a hard one to do, but it's also worth it, and I've embraced it a little bit myself, and that is to customize your hearing aids. Now, most of us who are deaf will be given molds, so I'll show you now. These little things. Whatever mold you get, you'll be asked to maybe choose a colour, to choose a style of mould, depending on what type of hearing loss you have. So I have skeletal moulds, which means that they let air ventilation in, because the full coverage moulds just did not work. I highly suggest that if you want to embrace who you are, and being deaf is a massive role that you now have to fulfill, to embrace it, try and customise your moulds. So whether you like the colour pink, or whether you like a certain ice hockey team, not to brag, I kind of did that with mine, so it's kind of a thing. Like, if you like something and it has a certain colour on it, choose it for your moulds. Whether you like a film, a TV show, sports teams, they have a massive role. If you like the English football team, you can do red and white. If you like I don't know, I'm trying to think now because there's so much to think about. If you like a certain character, sometimes you can get a picture of a character inserted into your moulds. Whether they still do that on 15-year-olds is a bit of a crisis I'm going to have to go through the next time I choose mine, but it's all worth it. And I promise you, when you customise your moulds, it's one of the most weirdly and bizarrely exhilarating things that you go through, because if you like customising things in the real world, customise your own aids, because it's just the most fun you'll get out of being deaf, I personally think. The next thing I'm going to talk about is a little bit harder for people who are profoundly deaf or for people who are just about losing their hearing altogether. But there is a way you can do this, and that is listen to music or listen to a film or a TV show. Now, I know it comes as a sort of surprise to a lot of people, like, how can you listen to music if you're deaf? Well, I know of a small instrument that I have actually tried, and I am hiring it currently. It still hasn't arrived in the post yet, so I'm hoping that will come soon. It is a bone conduction set of headphones. Now basically what these amazing little devices do is they're kind of like sports headphones. You can find them on Amazon or eBay, or if you're lucky you might find them in a charity shop. I'm not saying that you will, but you might in like 10 years time. Basically what they do is you stick them on your cheekbones, you stick the small headphones on there, and you turn it on, Bluetooth it to your phone or even to your telly. If you're lucky, if you have a Bluetooth receiver on your telly, you might just be able to connect it, and it plays music through your bones. Now, there was a study done several years ago that they could do this, and it was never really thought of until scientists and engineers developed the technology to do it. When I tried it, I didn't feel quite so scared anymore. Losing my deafness is quite a hard thing to accept in my life, and that is because I like music too much. Now, if I lost it altogether, I know there is a way to communicate with people by using bone conduction headphones or BSL. When I tried the headphones, it was a life-changing little experience, because I always feel like when I use headphones or Apple earphones, they never stay in my ears, and I never get the full volume of music that I'm actually listening to. It's either really quiet or really loud, and there's no in between. So to have something that just vibrates against your bones is just amazing, and the technology nowadays is just brilliant. So you never know, in 10 years time we might not even need another interpreting language like BSL or ASL, or even I think it's ESL. We might actually be able to communicate with deaf people by talking, and there might be a headset that they can wear and it will translate it for them so that they can actually hear your voice. We never know. Google have done it for translating foreign language, so you never know. Google, if you're watching, I'm on your platform. That would be a really amazing idea to do, and I think it's quite possible that you could get that done in the next 5 years. It might help a lot of people as well. So if you want to find bone conduction headphones, they are normally called sport conduction headphones. I will list a link in the description box on where to find them. If you are deaf like me, you can rent them from a deaf society. So I am currently trying to rent mine out on the KDCS website. I will also link that down below if you live in Kent or London. I'm trying to think of other ways you could get one. It's really hard at the moment because they're quite a new thing to buy, so I'd say have a look around. Maybe sports shops do them, like Sweatshop or New Balance. You might be able to find them in there, but don't judge me. I've never looked for them in public, so try and stick to places you know. TK Maxx might be another way to look for it, or TJ Maxx, I think they're called in America. Those are the only places I could think you might be able to find sport conduction headphones, because they're not actually called bone conduction headphones. So I would definitely link some sites that you might be able to find them on. So the final thing I'm going to talk about is asking for help. Now, when I was diagnosed with both losses of hearing, I felt quite responsible for losing it. When they told me I'd lost my lower frequency, I felt more responsible because I listened to music at very loud volume. So I felt solely responsible for losing my hearing. Although the doctors were telling me it wasn't my fault, I felt responsible for losing it. So don't ever feel that way. Try and ask for as much help as possible, whether you need an interpreter, whether you need just a hug or some form of sympathy or empathy from someone. Losing hearing is a massive, massive thing, and it doesn't come easy. Trying to deal with it all the time is hard enough, let alone just being diagnosed. And for people like me, when we're maturer, so when we're in our teenage years or young adult years, it's hard to get to grips with it, and it's so impossible to try and achieve a lot when you don't have hearing, because you feel like, I guess you feel like hearing is stopping you. Because you can't hear something, you feel like you can't actually do anything. So whether you're asking for help from your school, your local college, your university, whether you're asking help from even maybe your local council, there are many ways where you can ask for help, even if it means asking your family to speak up or to sign better. I know solely myself, I am currently learning British Sign Language, and I know one day I might lose my hearing forever. So it is a precaution that I learn it now rather than later. Otherwise it will definitely not work at all. There are other languages, so if you're in America, you could learn American Sign Language or BSL, and it's not the same as BSL or ASL, it's a little bit different, but there are many different sign languages, that you can learn. I think one for every country, but don't judge me now. Every place in the world has a different sign language to what you think. So BSL in London may be completely different from the BSL up in Scotland. So it's really important that you learn what you need to learn. I have currently asked help from my local college teacher. So I told her when I was diagnosed with lower pitched hearing loss that she may need to speak up a little bit, maybe needs to face me instead of turning her back, and she's pretty much embraced what I have told her. She has actually helped me with my work, so speaking to me face to face rather than back turned and not speaking to me at all. She looks at me when she's talking to the entire class, so she knows that I can see her. It's really important that if you are at school or college to let somebody know that you are deaf. I know it's really hard, and trying to embrace who you are is a most unbelievably difficult thing to do, and it is terrifying, believe me, I know. So if you want any tips or advice, my advice is just to tell your teacher or tell your friends. They will normally help you. If you don't have anyone to speak to, sometimes colleges and even universities have counsellors, so you might want to go and try one of them. If not, I highly suggest talking to your family about it. So if you have been diagnosed on your own, text your family the minute you get out of that consultation room. I only say this because if you don't tell your friends or family, they won't understand you. They won't know, and if you're struggling, it's very hard to try and be yourself. I am currently struggling trying to embrace myself as who I am, and it's very, very difficult to try and ask for help and advice. So if you want my advice now, is definitely to ask for any type of help whatsoever. That's it for now, guys. I hope this video has helped you in any way possible to understand deafness a little bit more. If you liked it, please click the like button, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.